Kings GPP lineup. I've already posted my full Thursday through Sunday slate. This is going to be my Sunday only. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it, and we're going to start off at QB with Kirk Cousins. So I really like Kirk Cousins this week. They're going against Philly. Now, Philly's defense has proven to be pretty good this season. But the way that Washington is playing, the way Kirk Cousins specifically is playing, I think he's a safe pick this week. At $6,300, I think he's easily good for 3x's value, around 18 to 20 points on average. He's averaging throughout the season 21.8, but it really, over the last 6-7 weeks, he's really ramped up his playing. He has 21 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions, so he's really consistent, not throwing a ton of interceptions throughout the year. If you look over the last couple games, specifically against Dallas, I mean, that was a shootout, and he threw 41 completions out of 53 attempts. His completion to throwing ratio is really high. I think this week he's good for probably around 25 points against Philly. Philly offensively isn't the best. They have a lot of injuries they're dealing with right now, and I think Washington's going to have their way. So we're definitely locking in Kirk Cousins at QB this week. Next up, our running back. We're going to go with the stud running back of the week, chalk running back of the week, and that's going to be David Johnson. I think ownership across the board in tournaments is going to be probably equal for David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell. I like both of them. I will be running both of them. I'm even going to run some tournament lineups with both as my starting running backs. That's going to be a little bit riskier because I'm going to obviously have more value in the wide receiver side of things, but I think there's more value right now this week, especially at wide receiver with some injuries, but not so much at running back. So this week, we're definitely going to lock in David Johnson as our top play of the week for running back. Next up, we're going with Melvin Gordon. So Melvin Gordon is definitely looking great right now. Everything points to the fact that he's going to continue to get a lot of work. Going against Carolina, they're obviously out of it. They have no chance at making a playoff run. So at the end of the day, they're just going to let him do his thing. And I suspect that he's going to get plenty of carries, probably a couple goal line carries as well, which gives him the upside at a touchdown or two. And Carolina is decimated in defense. Even if Luke Kuechly comes back this week, that is not relevant in my eyes. I think Melvin Gordon is still going to tear apart that Carolina defense. And at the end of the day, I really suspect they're going to rest a lot of their starting guys. I don't think they're going to rush Kuechly back just because of the fact that they don't have anything to play for right now. So I expect Melvin Gordon to carry it a lot, control the clock, and definitely reach value this week. Next up, we're going to go with wide receiver, and we're going to go with Kenny Britt. So Kenny Britt, obviously top target for the Rams. He's had some off games, but for the most part, double-digit outings for Draftings points. 14 last week, 16 the week before. He had an off game against Miami at 9 points, and then 20 the week before that. So he's putting up some really big numbers, 5 touchdowns on the year already, but he is their most consistent wide receiver right now, considering the fact that he's very low owned week to week. Even when he's projected to score a ton, he's generally around 10 to 15% ownership at best. I think this week going against Atlanta, he may be around that 10 to 15% mark, but I suspect that he'll be pretty low owned. So Kenny Britt this week is definitely someone we're going to lock in. Next, we're going with Taylor Gabriel. So, I hope I spelled it right. So Gabriel this week I really like. I've liked him every week. I've played him up and down when he's doing well and not. But consistency is what I look for, and Taylor Gabriel is definitely a consistent wide receiver. He's good with the deep ball. He's good with the slot. He's good in the end zone. The guy can make plays. He's fast. Now, Julio Jones is dealing with, I believe, turf toe, which could possibly put him out this week. I've seen a lot of players, top-end players, sit with turf toe for a couple of weeks. I mean, it's nothing to mess around with. So I suspect that Taylor Gabriel is going to get his work this week. They're going up against L.A. Now, I am stacking 2 receivers, one on each side of the field here. Both are pretty reasonably priced. They're kind of lower echelon price point, but I think both are going to overperform their value compared to their counterparts on the top end. So I think Taylor Gabriel this week, probably ownership is going to be a little higher with Julio's injury. And if he doesn't play, his ownership is definitely going to jump. But I think at $4,300, you got to roll with the guy, especially if you're going to be putting in guys like David Johnson in there. You need to have those value plays. So Gabriel is going to be the guy we're going to go with. Next, let's go with our tight end real quick. We'll skip the next wide receiver spot and run with tight end. And we're going to go with Delanie Walker. So Delanie Walker I like a lot this week. He is obviously Marcus Mariota's favorite target. He's been in the league for a while. He's a very consistent tight end. Now, any tight end, I was hearing a podcast this morning on YouTube, and I was listening to it, and they made a good point. Tight ends always have a floor of 0 points. Now, you have to be prepared for that when you plug in a tight end. Gronkowski's, they mentioned Reed is probably the only tight end that doesn't have a 0 floor. But for the most part, any tight end could go 0 points on a week just for the fact that they're not always a necessity. Tight ends are used mostly for bailouts when there's a pretty aggressive pass rush. They're used when they can't get open receivers because the secondaries are really good. Tight ends are more of your safety blanket. You see them utilized more in rookie quarterback situations for the most part. But you have to understand that tight ends are never a lock. So if you're going to pay up for a tight end, you have to be prepared to have that very low floor. But I think with Delanie Walker, his ceiling is extremely high. He's actually, I think, the leading tight end right now in the NFL on receptions. And, 49 receptions, almost 700 yards receiving. And he's averaging around 60 yards per game in receiving. That's pretty insane. If you figure on 60 yards a game, if he averages 5 catches for 60 yards, that's 11 points. That's 2.5 times his 4,400 price point. So no touchdown needed there to reach value. So we're definitely going to lock in Delanie Walker at tight end. So next we are going to run with Adam Thielen. So Thielen, Minnesota's most consistent, most reliable pass catcher. If you look at their options, they do have a couple good wide receivers. But when you look at Jacksonville, their secondary isn't horrible, but they're pretty bad. That defense is not great. Offense is even worse. But Thielen, week to week, has been putting up phenomenal numbers. Last week against Dallas, he has 14.6 points. Detroit, Arizona, 13-17. Washington, 12. Some of those defenses are much better than Jacksonville, and he's still putting up mid-range, 12 to 15 points on average. So, that's consistent numbers if you ask me. He has the upside in an occasional touchdown, but really he's just going to be your consistent receiver. He's going to get you the targets, he's going to get you the receptions, and he's going to get you the DraftKings points that you need to move up that ladder. So I really think Thielen this week, he's generally low owned as well. Not a lot of people hone in on Minnesota. Ever since Adrian Peterson went away, I think Minnesota's kind of fallen into everyone's back pocket. No one really pays attention. So I think Thielen will be low owned and should have some good upside this week. Our flex position, we're going to run dual tight end, and we're going with Zach Ertz. So we are going to run the Washington QB. Now we're going to run a little Philly action with Zach Ertz. So Zach is definitely ramping back up after coming back from injury. He's been definitely overperforming his value week to week. Last week against Cincinnati, he had a phenomenal week. I don't think he'll necessarily repeat that all the time, but looking at 22.9, let's call it 23 points, as his ceiling right now is phenomenal. He's $4,900, so that's over 4x his value at a tight end position. Now, I know Washington's defense is good. I think they're definitely going to be more zeroed in on the receiving core for Philly, which is going to help open up some opportunity for Zach Ertz. Philly's not great offensively. Obviously, they had some trouble this season, but with Zach Ertz being so consistent, and with the targets there, he has 47 receptions for just over 450 yards. So very close to Delanie Walker in the sense that he's averaging about 45 yards per game. And he has the upside for a touchdown. I don't expect 20 points out of him this week. I'd be happy with 15 points and reaching 3x, and that'll be solid if you ask me. And then for defense, we're going to go with the Chargers defense. So they're going against Carolina. Like I mentioned before, Carolina, they know their games are over. They're done for the season. At this point, they're just trying to save face and try not to go out with any additional injuries. So I really think San Diego is going to have their way with Carolina. Cam Newton has not been doing well on the ground. He's not running due to the fact that he's had those concussions. And Carolina, I think at this point, they're just going to keep it on the ground. They're going to play it safe, try to keep from hemorrhaging any worse than they already are. And I think San Diego this week is definitely going to shut them out. I do expect Carolina to score a touchdown, maybe a touchdown and a field goal, but it will be a low-scoring offensive outing for Carolina, I believe, this week. San Diego secondaries, they have some good threats to shut down that pass game. Ginn might go off. I'm running Ginn in a couple other lineups as well, just as possible upside. But I don't expect a lot out of Carolina. I do expect them to sack Cam Newton a few times as well, which should add a few extra points. But looking at the game log, we won't stay on this too long. They do have a pretty high ceiling, 13, 14 points defensively. That's ridiculous for a defense, and they've repeated that a few times so far this week or this year. So I really like San Diego Chargers. So this is my lineup: Kirk Cousins, David Johnson, Melvin Gordon, Kenny Britt, Taylor Gabriel, Adam Thielen, Delaney Walker, Zach Ertz, and the Chargers defense. Feel free to lock it in, guys. If you like my videos, please comment, subscribe, smash that like button. And I will be posting 2 videos from now on. I'll be doing a Thursday, so the Thursday through Sunday slate, as well as a Sunday main slate. Depending on if I have time, I may also run a primetime lineup as well, and I'll post a video for that if I do. But I probably won't be doing that every week, considering they're pretty short slates, and I'm not necessarily a favorite of those. So anyways, good luck this week. Hope everyone makes some money, and I will catch you guys later.